what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small business with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, looking for some advice on starting a business or reinventing a business during turbulent times. We'll share some ideas with you. Maybe you want to get into business. Have you considered purchasing a franchise? Our guest today is Fran Paradine, who is currently a franchisee owner, and she'll share her experience and give us some do's and don'ts. And as always, we'll wind up with our Small Business of the Month feature, where we'll highlight some interesting businesses that you should be checking out. My name is Jeff Newville. I'm your co-host. I'm director of the Small Business Center at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is Dean of the School of Workforce Productivity and the Arts at Catawba Valley Community College. Gary, how's it going today?
Jeff, I'm doing great. Weather's getting a little bit better as we move further into the spring. So that always makes me feel better. And again, we're further into the semester and making good progress there. Our students are doing well this semester, although it's been a tough year.
Well, I know we're getting toward the end of the semester. I know you've got a lot of work on your plate. One of the articles that you and I were discussing was an article by Hal Brundwick of NerdWallet that I saw, where he was talking about how turbulent times can create business opportunities. You know, we've been dealing with this pandemic for a year. A lot of businesses have suffered and struggled, but there are some folks out there that see opportunity out there, and he threw a few ideas out there that our listeners can be thinking about. And some things he suggests that we focus on are, number one, you got to move quickly. You have to adapt rapidly to a changing market. Secondly, try to fix something that bothers you. Gary, you and I always talk about the best businesses solve problems. So, if you see a problem out there that you might have a solution towards, that often leads to a pretty good business idea and a business startup.
Yeah, and we talk about it. We talk about it all the time in class, and when we're talking, a lot of people come up with a great idea in their mind, and it may be one, but you got to make sure there's a real market for it, because sometimes you spend a lot of time and energy and money on something you think is great, but there's not a big market for it. So, if you're solving a problem of a lot of people, that's where you're probably going to be successful. And also going back to your first one, doing it quickly. We saw a lot of success stories with your clients and many of the folks who work with the college during the pandemic. They switched from what they were doing to making masks or PPE, and they're doing very well with that. And I think that is something that it can happen all the time. If you see an idea, jump and try to fix it. But being able to pivot is critical. And you can't assume that it's going to be the same way for the rest of our lives and not change when the environment changes.
Yeah, two other points that he makes in his article that I think are important and interesting. The third thing he said, look for a 5-degree difference. And what he means there is that you don't have to come up with the next Facebook or Amazon or this grand new idea, but really focus on how you might tweak an existing business model by 5 or 10 degrees. Make it a little bit different, make it unique, make it stand out, but you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. That's sort of the 5-degree difference. And his last point was, don't be too quick to run out and hire people. You really got to watch your expenses. You got to watch your overhead. So, hire slowly. Don't rush out to do staff before make sure you've got the sales to support it. So that's always a challenge for new business as well, Gary.
Yes, that one you just talked about. I was doing my research for the podcast, as I do every Friday night and Thursday night, and any time that Shark Tank's on. And there was a guy had a great idea, and the sharks all liked it, but he had hired so many people that he couldn't cover his overhead in getting started. And they said, "You got a great idea, but he's got so much debt," that they walked away from what was a clever concept because he didn't manage his money very well. He had raised a lot of money, but he had spent it on a lot of folks that he didn't need because his business hadn't built at that point. We don't do that at the college.
Well, no, it doesn't seem like we do. So they keep both you and I very busy, but we'd rather be busy than twiddling our thumbs. So that's all good. So
That's exactly right.
well, why don't we we're fortunate to have a guest with us today. Let's welcome Fran Paradine to our podcast. Fran, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Jeff. Thank you. Excited to be here.
Well, Fran is currently the co-owner of Incredible Edibles, a store in Hickory, North Carolina that focuses on nutritional wellness. When she's not in her store, she's actively involved in the sport of lacrosse as an official, a coach, the wife of our local college, Lenore Ryan University's lacrosse coach, and the mother of 3 kids who are all active lacrosse players. I believe your daughter is a player at the University of North Carolina.
She is, yeah.
And that's where I went to school. Has a strong lacrosse background. Don't know how they're doing now, but back in the day, they won some national championships.
Yeah, they're undefeated and ranked number 1 in the nation at the moment. So,
all right, well,
having a good season.
Go Tar Heels. So Fran was previously also the owner of 3 Delicious franchises in Western North Carolina. And she's seen the good side and the bad side of being a franchise owner. She spent many years as a therapist who primarily worked with families and adolescents. So her interest in nutritional wellness stems from the recognition that mental health and physical health and good food choices all go hand in hand. So, Fran, really appreciate you being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Incredible Edibles and what's going on with that?
Okay. So, yeah, as you said, Incredible Edibles is a store that focuses on nutritional wellness. We do we vet everything we bring into the store, so everything has a really good taste as well as some nutritional benefit. We held on, as you mentioned, we were a Delicious frozen yogurt bar franchise prior to this. So we held on to the frozen yogurt and smoothies that were so popular as Delicious, and just kind of added a lot of different other different aspects to the store. So we have CBD, we have high quality CBD. Again, that's been third party tested, and we know that it tastes really good too. So it's not just the benefit of the CBD. So we go through a lot of testing before we bring the products into the store. And then we have a lot of drinks. We have kombucha, which is, it's been around for a long time, but I think is gaining popularity. We've got kombucha on tap, which is very popular in our store right now. And we also, this is where it gets a little bit complicated, but we also have a fully functioning edible arrangements within the store. So we actually have 2 different businesses under one roof, but kind of combined 3 businesses. We combined the frozen yogurt from Delicious, the edible pieces from Incredible Edibles, and then the edible arrangements as well. So yeah, we're juggling a lot over there.
And now when did you start up this particular operation? Because I got to think that it seems to me that you were pretty much starting right when COVID was hitting or right before COVID was hitting, and that must have created all sorts of challenges as well.
Yes, it was very interesting. So Delicious Frozen Yogurt Bar was a very, very small franchise. And the corporate office just kind of disappeared, went out of business in October of 2019. And so we had a choice to make, right? We could either close down, we could try to continue as Delishi, or we could rebrand and expand what we offered. So in thinking about it, I'm not very creative. And so trying to kind of create a new brand myself was very overwhelming. So just looking at what our options were, we honed in on edible arrangements because it made sense with what we had. So it's had the fresh fruit, it had chocolate, which we obviously have as a frozen yogurt bar. But also their busiest time is the winter. And as a frozen yogurt bar, obviously our busiest time was the summer. So it seemed to be a good combination. And so we reached out to them, and in talking with them, they came to us, they had a new concept that they were just beginning, which is Incredible Edibles. So Incredible Edibles is an offshoot of Edible Arrangements. And at that point, it was just an idea to them. And so we became the first Incredible Edibles, which hopefully will be a nationwide franchise. But so we shut down in December, kind of rebranded, opened up in March for 3 days, and then had to shut down for the pandemic. So it was a great 3 days. We were very excited about that. But obviously the shutdown was difficult. However, because we had two businesses in one, right? So we had the edible arrangements side of it. And Edible Arrangements was able to stay open during COVID. So because we delivered and we offered, fresh fruit baskets, and we also offered fresh vegetable baskets. So that kind of kept us going.
And now things are starting to restrictions are getting eased, and things. Are you seeing a noticeable improvement in what's going on at this point in time in terms of people coming into the store? And I know where your location is. I know that there's also some outdoor areas right adjacent to your store that people can come in, get something, and go outdoors and eat. So how are things going at this point in time?
Things are definitely picking up over the past month, which is typical, right? We were a frozen yogurt bar for 8 years, and winters were always difficult. And then starting usually February, March, things would pick up naturally just because weather changes. And so add COVID and people being stuck in their houses, now with weather, the weather getting better and restrictions being eased. Yes, we're definitely seeing an uptick in the customers who come in. So it's been good. It's exciting.
So talk to you. You've been a franchisee for Delishi. You're now one with Edible Arrangements as Incredible Edibles. When you're going through the process of becoming a franchisee, what sort of benefits do you see of being a franchisee? Is it the fact that there's an established brand? What are the good things about being a franchisee? And then I suspect there's some downside to it as well. So give our listeners some perspective if they're thinking about franchises out there.
Yeah, so I have experience with small franchises and large franchises and brand new franchises and established franchises. And so not until I was kind of thinking about this, talking with you guys today, did I realize that I had all of these experiences. And, I think I did not do my homework before I started. It's been 10 years now that I've been, before I got into Delishi, I really just did not do my homework. That was a brand new franchise. The woman who started it had just opened her own frozen yogurt bar in Asheboro, and she wasn't planning to franchise. And then a bunch of people came to her, so she decided to franchise. So I think she didn't really know what she was doing. We didn't really know what we were doing. And so that was just difficult. It was difficult throughout the 8 years that we were there, because, I think trying to find the balance of what we were supposed to do and what corporate was supposed to do. And so, one, definitely do your homework. Look, if someone is thinking about buying into a franchise, I would 100% recommend that they go and spend some time in one of those franchises with the owner, and really learning what it takes to run the business, what it means to franchise, and every franchise is different. So, but what I have learned from being a part of the Edible Arrangements franchise. So that's a very well-established, very well-known franchise with a huge backing. And that's wonderful to have that kind of backing. There's a lot of marketing that I don't have to do because it's kind of a well-known name. There's a lot of, the graphics I get from them, just kind of a lot of things I get from them because they're established franchise I didn't get before. However, I also get the auto-shipped things from corporate that I don't need. I don't really have any voice in decisions that are being made. And so that can be frustrating. But then in between, I have the Incredible Edibles franchise, which does have the huge backing because it's part of Edible Arrangements, but it's also brand new. So I have a big voice in there because I was the first store. I mean, the second one just opened this week in Connecticut. So I'm not the only one, but in creating that Connecticut store, they used a lot of things that we put into practice in our store. And so, I feel like I've been able to have a really big voice in that one, which is exciting.
Well, Fran, I know from your work with Delishi, with your work in Delishi, I know there were some frustrations in terms of things that you wanted to do that might not have been smiled upon by your franchisor, and in terms of having some flexibility there, and I guess when you talk about cons of being a franchisee, you're going to run into that. I mean, it sounds like you've sort of got a nice sweet spot there, no pun intended, of sort of working with a large franchisor, but sort of in a new venture that gives you some flexibility to try some things. But when it comes to downsides, is it standardization is great when it comes to brand recognition and marketing, but maybe doesn't give you all the flexibility that you like as a business owner / entrepreneur.
Correct. I mean, that's exactly how it feels. I definitely, just as an example for a mandate from the Edible Arrangements corporate, as a business owner, I value my employees and I value their home time and their priorities. And we have to be open on holidays. There's no choice, but we have to be, because it's a busy time for Edible Arrangements. So I understand the business side of it. But it's hard, for me to tell my employees they have to come in and work on holidays, because that's not something I did as a Delishi owner. We were closed holidays because I really respected that their time with their families. And so it's things like that don't necessarily feel good, but I understand them. And if I had a choice, I'd do it differently, but I don't have a choice.
This podcast is sponsored by Jackson Creative, a custom communication agency located in downtown Hickory, North Carolina, specializing in online content creation. To learn more, visit thejacksoncreative.com. Jackson Creative, we tell your story.
So, Fran, talk a little bit about the cost that people should be considering as they are thinking about being a franchisee. I suspect that there's an initial franchise fee. I suspect there's some monthly fees. Talk a little bit about the costs that you run into if you're going to be a franchisee.
Yes, there is definitely a cost. And depending on which franchise you choose to buy into, the initial startup cost varies. But there's definitely a cost. You're buying into an existing brand, and you're paying for not only that name, but all of the research and marketing, and all the other pieces, best system or best practices that have gone into creating that brand. So there's always a fee to buy in. And additionally, there are monthly fees. So you are paying a percentage of your sales to corporate. And the value of that varies. I have found that working with Edible Arrangements and Incredible Edibles, it's great value. I mean, I feel like I am getting a lot for what I pay monthly to them. And that's just simply because they've been around for a long time. They're good at it. And they, I know Edible Arrangements has done a lot of, over the past probably 3 or 4 years, a lot of research on what sells and what doesn't sell and when things sell. And I can see that in the communications I get from them. And they're constantly trying to develop new things and to develop new revenue streams for the franchisees. So I really appreciate that. But yes, there is a cost to that. The other costs are, mandated upgrades. There are times when they come in and they say, you need to do this to your store. And that's expensive, whether you are feeling like this is a good time to do it or not, it doesn't matter. You need to do it by a certain date. And that is to have uniformity across the country or across, wherever they are. Because if somebody walks into, McDonald's is obviously the best. McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, you know what you're getting when you walk in there. And so that's the goal of each franchise, right? They want uniformity. And so then, the other cost is things that get auto shipped from the company that sometimes are great and sometimes just aren't something that I would have ever ordered on my own. It's just part of the deal.
So, well, and I would expect it seems like the stuff that you're going to get has a shelf life to it. So if it does not get bought by a certain point in time, I guess it's going out in the trash.
So some of it, unfortunately, goes out in the trash. Some of it I can reuse or use in a different way on the other side of that store. So we have the Edible Arrangement store. If they ship me something that I'm not able to use or doesn't sell in the Edible Arrangement side of the store, I can kind of usually find a way to use it, either as a topping for the yogurt, a blend-in for the smoothies, or some way of using it so it doesn't get wasted.
Out of curiosity, do you mix CBDs into smoothies or yogurt?
Well, if we weren't in North Carolina, we certainly would. However, North Carolina laws do not allow us to infuse anything. So we have, for smoothies, we have honey sticks, CBD with honey sticks that the customer can add in to a smoothie. And we also have the caliper packs. It's just unflavored powder that you can really mix into anything. So, but we have a lot of CBD infused ready-made drinks. One of our kombuchas on tap is CBD infused. So you get the benefits of the kombucha plus the CBD. We have, CBD seltzers, CBD teas, CBD juices. So yeah. And then chocolates and sugars. And we've got a lot of different ways to get CBD into your system.
Okay. I'm not a big CBD user.
You need
just
to try
curious.
it.
Certainly.
Come on in, Jeff. I'll show you.
I want to try the kombucha. I haven't had that before, but I've been reading up on that. So I'm going to come by and try that.
I'm going to sneak some CBD in for you. The CBD kombucha is so good.
Based on your background and the work that you've done, I can understand why you're working with Incredible Edibles. I mean, when things didn't work out as well with Delishi, was that something that you just focused on, or did you sort of go through a process to look at franchise opportunities and conclude that was the best one, or how did that come about?
So Jeff, you and I have met throughout the years, so you are, I think, pretty familiar with my frustrations and the difficulties I had in running Delishi. So it was actually a pretty big relief to me when the corporate office just kind of went away, because it allowed me to, one, take a deep breath and just kind of say, okay, like, then be able to think, what do we want to do? Having now run these stores for 8 years, what do I think we need here? What do we want to incorporate here? So, and it was really almost serendipitous that Incredible Edible Arrangements was thinking about Incredible Edibles. It was just kind of this thing that came about and was really in line with my personal beliefs, right? And, I played sports forever and work out a lot and try to watch what I eat and eat healthy. And so it just kind of combined my passions with what we already had. So the other Incredible Edibles will not have frozen yogurt, but because we had some flexibility and had some say in how things worked, we were able to hold on to the best parts of Delishi. And then grow from there. And the other ones also will not have an edible arrangements in there. So we're, while we were kind of the guinea pig, they're using us to see what sells and what doesn't sell, and, which is fine. So there's some loss in that. There's some stuff that we brought in a year ago that hasn't moved at all, that we had to pay for. So, there's pros and cons to being the first, but overall, it works really well with who I am, me personally, and what my values are. And, the piece that I love is also the interaction with the customers. Being able to talk with them about CBD, being able to give them a tool that's going to help them either with sleep or with pain management, or with anxiety. I mean, it's something I truly believe in. And it's worked wonders for me as far as pain and sleep. So, that part fits with my mental health background, right? I get to really engage.
So that's why you went this direction and not the Burger King franchise.
Yeah, I don't know how good I feel about selling Burger King. But.
Well, any final advice for our listeners who are thinking about operating a franchise that you'd like to leave them with?
Like I said before, really do your homework. That was a mistake I made very early on. And it's been a lot of learning since then, some good, some bad. Obviously, we wasted a lot of time and a lot of money in the learning process. So definitely do your homework. Talk with as many people as you can about what that franchise is and what the opportunities plus the costs are going to be. And, also be open. Be open to ideas. I mean, one thing over the past year has taught me is that, I need to be flexible and I need to be open and I need to say yes to things, even if they make me anxious or I don't necessarily see the value in them. To say, yes, I'd like to learn more about that has been really important in this process over the past year.
Well, that sounds like good pandemic advice.
Yes.
for us, for lots of areas. So, well, Fran, we appreciate learning from your experience as a franchisee and franchise owner. If you're brave, we're going to do our quick lightning round with you. You up for that?
I'm up for it.
Okay. Well, this month's lightning round is sponsored by Globo Gym. If you need to lose some weight and get in shape, probably should go to someone else's gym. But if you already look good, come on into Globo Gym. Check it out on the internet. So, Fran, I'm going to throw some quick questions out to you. Quick responses, quick questions. Ready?
Yes, I'll do my best.
Okay. Vacation spot that you'd most like to visit after the pandemic?
Oh, I'd love to go back to New Zealand, actually.
Well, that's not a weekend jaunt.
Favorite place in the world.
Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing more about that. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Geez. Okay, now I'm caught off guard. I don't know, loud chewing, when people chew really loudly.
Okay, that's fair.
Just great, particularly my husband.
I hope he's listening. What is your favorite Easter candy?
Jelly beans.
Jelly beans. Okay, stock up on the jelly beans. Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Rolling Stones, for sure.
All right. Do you have a quarantine TV or movie streaming recommendation?
I loved The Queen's Gambit. Was amazing. Did not want that to end.
I saw that one too. Big thumbs up for me on that one as well. Last question. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
To fly.
To fly. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that's a good one. All right. You pass. Way to go. Congratulations. Right. So, Fran, if people want to find you or they want to find Incredible Edibles, where should they be looking?
Online, the store is located in Holler Mill, which is 883 Highland Avenue Southeast, right by Lenore-Rhine. And you can also shop online at incredibleedibles.com. And we also, if you shop online, you can do curbside pickup. You can come in the store, or we can deliver locally. And you can check us out on Instagram and Facebook.
All right. So look for Incredible Edibles.
Also check out our podcast. We have Incredible Edibles is sponsoring our own podcast called Creating Wellness, and I'm the host.
And I bet that people can find that on the Mesh Podcast Network at themesh.tv.
That would be the place.
Okay. Well, you can find a lot of good podcasts out there, so people should definitely be checking that out with our friends at the Mesh. And we always like to wind up with some small businesses of the month that people should be checking out. Fran, anything you want to throw out there to our listeners?
Can I do two real quick?
Go for it.
Okay. So in creating this podcast, Joy Davis took my pictures, which I hate having pictures taken. And so Joy Davis Photography, she's wonderful. She made me feel very, very comfortable in something that was very uncomfortable for me. And then MaggieTremels.com is another small business. She has wonderful information about eating healthy, taking care of ourselves, and teaching kids during this pandemic. So those are my two shout outs.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We'll look for them. All right. Gary, what small business do you have this month?
Well, my small business is from Stephen Rhodes, the machining director here at CVCC, and he does an amazing job with barbecue. And he tours around the state and actually the Southeast, doing barbecue cook-offs and just going. And one thing that's really unique about it, one, he has great product, great food, but he does a lot of it for free or for charity or for religious organizations. And so he really doesn't make money from it. He does it so he can, it's kind of like his mission to help other small businesses and other, worthwhile charities. He's a fine guy and does it with his wife.
All right. Well, thanks. We appreciate Stephen Rhodes doing that. My small business, and I'll be interested, particularly in Fran's take on this one. It's one that I was reading about in an op-ed piece in the New York Times by Frank Bruni, who is a fellow University of North Carolina graduate. I actually worked with him on the Daily Tar Heel staff many, many moons ago. We still used typewriters back then, probably. But he actually used to be the food writer for the New York Times. And he wrote about a small business called Nature's Find, FYND, in Chicago, and they discovered microbes with origins in Yellowstone National Park, and they use a special fermentation technology to produce a new to the world nutritional fungi protein, which they're calling FY. And they're using this to create a wide range of meat and dairy alternatives. They've started with meatless breakfast patties and dairy-free cream cheese. And FY is a nutritional fungi protein derived from naturally occurring microbes with origins in Yellowstone National Park. They say that I'm looking at, it's got 1/10 the fat of ground beef and has 50% more protein than tofu and twice as much protein as raw peas, which always sounds very appetizing. They've been very successful in raising funding. They've raised about $150 million in funding, including investments from groups that included Bill Gates and Al Gore. In February, they started selling their breakfast patties and cream cheese, and they sold out within 24 hours. They were selling it online. So this could be our future cheeseburger, Gary. I know you're a man that appreciates a good cheeseburger. Based on you're someone that's been to McDonald's before.
Yes, I have to feel a lot of pressure with Fran because she's always talking about healthy food. And by the way, you can't see me, but I have my 32
Yeah, I noticed that.
Okay. Anyway, so check out Nature's Find. It's www.naturesfindfynd.com, and you can learn about them. And as Joe Bob would say, you should check it out. If any of our listeners have a suggestion for our Entrepreneur Exchange Small Business of the Month, email them to us at eexchange@themesh.tv. Fran, we want to thank you so much for joining us today on the Entrepreneur Exchange. We wish you the best of luck, both with your business and with your new podcast venture. Maybe we can come in and eat, micro nutritional hamburgers on your show at some point in time.
Maybe. This has been great. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Fran.
Well, we want to wish everybody the best. Everyone stay healthy out there and enjoy the spring. And we'll look forward to talking with you again next month. Take care.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.